Hi everyone, welcome to the Lead Labs webinar. We're going to look at how you can use LinkedIn automation to generate leads and some of the tools you can do with AI. Before we get started and I introduce people, let's just do a few technical things to make sure everything's working. Harry, do you mind doing a quick poll in the group just to make sure everyone can hear us? Please put yes if you can hear us, obviously no if you can't, just to make sure before we get started.
Yep, I was running now.
Right, okay, great. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to be joined by Francesco and Harry today. I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute, just so we make sure we're all up and running.
We've got 100% yes at the moment, so that's good.
Good start. Fine. Well, on that basis, we'll carry on. Just to make sure everything and give people a little bit more time before we go live, or we start, I should say. Let's just put one more poll in the group. What do we normally go with, Harry, this one? There's a 3 choice.
Yeah, so we put a poll in for people's experience and using LinkedIn for outreach in the past. So we put 3 options in. One is, yes, I have, but manually. Yes, I have used some form of automation for it or not done anything like this before. So hopefully the poll will help us to try and...
Or automation.
Yeah,
or
those are 3.
Yeah.
So we can structure this webinar based on what people have experienced. So that should now be running now for everyone. Hopefully everyone can see it.
Great. If you guys can quickly give us a bit of a vote on that, just give us a bit of a guide on what to focus on when we go through the webinar, depending on what the percentages look like. I.e. if you've done no outreach before, or if you've done some automation, none obviously affects some of the stuff we'll talk about as we go through it. Any early numbers?
So we've got some coming through. We got a bit of a mix, but mostly at the moment, people have been using LinkedIn outreach. Been using LinkedIn in the past, but have been doing it manually.
Okay, great. And that's the majority of people.
So we've got around 6% manually, 30% haven't, and the rest have used some form of automation in the past. So hopefully we can do something for everyone.
Cool. So just under introductions, I'm joined by my business partners, Harry Jones and Francesco Mercurio. I'll let you guys introduce yourself and what you do, and then I'll come back to me.
Yeah, okay. So I've been content writing for 10, nearly 15 years now. The content form has changed over time. Initially, when we first met, I was writing content for email marketing. Of course, things have changed, things have evolved since then, and now it's predominantly content for LinkedIn, which of course we'll talk about. As part of that, as part of helping people set up campaigns with their content, I've also been helping with target audiences, so identifying, or sourcing data, sourcing content information to do this outreach.
Building the perfect list, basically. Cool. And yourself, Francesco?
Afternoon, guys. Yes, I'm Francesco, everybody. I have been working with Lead Lab, I guess, for around 11 years when you were booking appointments for the team of sales reps that I was running. And for the last 4.5 years, I've been a fractional sales marketing director and have used Lead Lab for a variety of clients. And then because on Thursday afternoons I'm free, you invite me on these webinars. So hopefully I can add some sort of value and give an outside perspective of Lead Lab and also just generally automated LinkedIn outreach.
Yeah, we really appreciate your input, Francesco. It's good to have someone that comes from the other side of experience. Also a different outlook on LinkedIn marketing, different than even ourselves as well. So let's get into it. We're going to show you lots of things to be able to do LinkedIn outreach yourself, automation, tools, AI tools, all the things that can make you do it. Try and help you with all the common mistakes people make when they start doing LinkedIn outreach, manually themselves or automated themselves. Let's jump into it. There's going to be an opportunity throughout this, and we'll put one up quickly here now. Obviously, you can ask questions throughout the webinar, but you may find that they're too nuanced or too difficult for us to try and answer. We may not have time as well. We've got quite a lot of people in the live today, so we'll try and answer as many as we can as we go through, mainly at these spots when we give the opportunity to book your one-to-one, but feel free to book your own one-to-one where you'll have a one-to-one where one of the team will answer any questions you might have. We'll look at anything you're doing already, share examples of what's worked, what hasn't worked, just really try to help you as best we can. We massively believe that comes around in the long term to us, whether you go and recommend us to a client, a friend or whatever, or come back to us in a year's time when you look to scale your LinkedIn outreach. So again, feel free to book that. And well, I guess we haven't got any questions yet.
We do, actually.
Oh,
we have one question.
Yeah.
Will there be a recording afterwards?
Yes, great question. There will be a recording. I think you get sent it after. And we've had a couple of people book outreach things that have done it a couple of weeks later sometimes. So again, feel free to if you can't stay on the whole time, to rewatch it when we send it to you. Start off with why you should LinkedIn Outreach and how AI can help with this. Just the 3 things that we really look at: the scalability of it. We have clients that have hundreds of profiles. We have clients that have 3, 5, 10, but it is a scalable marketing channel. It can appear to be personal at scale, which is really valuable to get those responses. And one of the number one reasons we use it as a company and we sell it as a business and manage it is because it is so cost effective. If you're trying to generate revenue from LinkedIn, the cost per acquisition on in-mails and ads and content creation is just loads higher than LinkedIn automation at scale. So again, that's why we get through that. We'll go into more detail as we go through, but that's just obviously over the top. Guys, you got any take on why to use LinkedIn? Francesco, any personal feelings around it?
It's the psychology is better. So much better than a cold email or a text or a phone call. You don't communicate with somebody until they've accepted your connection request. So the analogy I keep using is if you're walking along the street and you walk into a hi-fi superstore and someone comes over and says, "Hey, Toby, here, look at this brochure on these speakers, floor standers. They're fantastic. Listen to the acoustics. We got a special on this week." You're probably going to look at it because you walked in the store. If someone just runs out of the store and hits you and stops you walking along and says, "Hey, by the way, look at these speakers. They're awesome," there's only a 1% chance you're going to look at them. So people build a relationship on LinkedIn. People expect you to message them if they accept your connection request.
Totally.
That's what we're there for. We're not there to look at holiday pictures or cats or ladies crossing the road and being helped by somebody. So it just works because it's personal, and that's what the platform's built for. So there's an inherent okay about saying, I'm pitching myself.
Totally. I mean, that's what it's all about. There is also, people still get the endorphins like they get from their Facebook and their Instagram when they get a little red dot and a message comes up, or someone's messaged me, who's this person? Go and look at all that. Social chemistry is part of it, which you just don't get from email or phone calls anymore. It's just, you can almost see you being sold to without even opening it. So we'll get into some of the tools we're going to tell you about and how to use them. Again, a lot of this stuff we wouldn't necessarily do ourselves, but if we're trying to help one-man bands out there or marketing directors or MDs starting to look and do their own outreach, we're trying to give them tools that they may use to make this doable for themselves, because we see people go out there and start do LinkedIn automation, and the amount of mistakes they're making from start to finish is crazy, and then they think the channel doesn't work for them. So I think what we found is by helping people, in little ways, if they are going to do it themselves, when they look to scale it, they'll come back to us because we've obviously helped them on that journey. So we've got PhotoPax AI, which we'll get into in a bit more detail, but obviously it helps you with photo regeneration. Go login around profile protection, and DeepSeek AI for content writing or messaging journey writing. But we'll go through them one by one. PhotoPax AI. One of my personal favorites, and I think we've been repping PhotoPax AI for over a year now, way before people were using, Grok and ChatGPT and stuff like that to change photos. So, we were chatting the other day about whether we should take it off and change it with something else. And what we've decided is the reality is PhotoPax AI is built just for that purpose, to turn your profile into a professional photo. So, and I've seen ones that we've done on other softwares or whatever, and yeah, it costs £24, but it's the gift that keeps on giving. You can have that profile for 20, 30 years or whatever. The more appealing you look as a person, it affects your acceptance rate. It's just a truth of life, unfortunately. So it's only a one-off cost, but something I think is massively important.
Yeah, I think one thing you mentioned at the start too is about scalability. I think if you have a team and you're just trying to compile accounts to use for outreach, and you find out half of them don't have a profile picture, a couple of them have just reused a wedding photo from the 90s or something. It's good to get this a nice, easy way to get consistent, quality professional photos without, as you said, trying to have multiple attempts where you try and use it through ChatGPT and they end up with 5 fingers on the
Go login. A bit more technical. Do you want to take Go login?
Yeah, I guess that's almost a good segue about talking about multiple profiles. Is Go Login is a tool that essentially allows you to log into multiple profiles in one space. Now, of course, there's a risk, not just LinkedIn, any platform, when you start trying to log in and switching between accounts constantly, all from one central location, that can flag on a lot of different platforms. So the idea is Go Login creates that safe space where you can access multiple accounts, log in quickly, in and out, and just reduce the risks of any suspicious activity. I think
Yeah,
is
so
what
if you're a
it's
one-man band in the UK, but you maybe got, an international resource you use to do some of your LinkedIn outreach, this would protect them from looking like they're logging in to your account all over the web, which obviously LinkedIn don't like. And also helps with the scale. Again, this isn't something you need if you're a client of ours. We obviously do this at scale. All of our software includes the protection that you need. But again, if you are going to do this yourself, it's a really good tool for that. Then we've got DeepSeek AI. Francesco, I know you've got some views on how to use DeepSeek AI or not use DeepSeek AI in most cases. So I'll let you take the floor on that one.
Well, definitely use it, but don't let it finish the job.
Yeah.
So people, unless you're inherently a talker like I am, and you can just think off the fly and just say stuff, if you're trying to think of a
Doesn't sound like you,
messaging
mate.
sequence. Yeah, I know. Sorry. Right. How long we got on this? 2 hours? If you're trying to think of a messaging sequence to send people on, even email or whatever, but that's why DeepSeek AI is good for this, because it's built for this. You load up the information on your company and what you do and what you provide. Specifically, then load up what the problem is that you solve for the people that you're reaching out to. Because it's not about telling them what you do, it's telling them how you can help them, because that's why they're on LinkedIn. Then get it to write the message. That gets over the 80% of the block that people have about doing this, because they start writing a message and then they overthink it and then they start again and doesn't need to start like this. It will do the heavy lifting for you. Then what you must do is de-AI it. So get the framework, it's done the grunt work for you, then make it sound like you. Because if you don't do that, that's where you're going to have problems. I like AI, I think it's great, but a lot of people just kind of think that they can press the button and then forget about it. There's still a little bit of work at the end, but that is 90% less work than you would do if you had to create the whole thing yourself. So it's absolutely worth doing, but just remember to then change the syntax and maybe the order of the sentences, or just change the language a little bit and make it sound like you, so it's not inherently like AI. What you don't want is, hi Harry, really love the synergy in the lead generation space, insert scrape data that they got from your LinkedIn profile, blah, 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 because that's what emails are full of now.
And
everyone sniffs.
that's sort of the problem with this. So like, we're advising this for a one-man band or a marketing director or a business that doesn't know where to start. Like we would never use this ourselves for copywriting. The problem with AI is it creates like a medium, because it's taking information from everywhere. And obviously, anyone who's in marketing or sales will realize that, a medium or an average is not a great marketing position. Fortunately, we've got years of writing content that we know can get people to respond across a trillion different sectors. So that's obviously how we do it. But at the same time, this can help you get your feet on the ground if you're looking to do something before and you're looking at it thinking, I've got no idea how to write a 3 or 4 message journey. This will give you a starting point. So just want to be clear that we're advising it as a helping hand if you don't have the experience. But yeah, just to emphasize what Francesco's saying, pretty much once you've got that structure from it and it's given you something, pretty much rewrite it to a certain extent, but just keeping the structure, because it will feel like AI and it will create an average, which is not obviously ideal when it comes to marketing purposes. So yeah, okay, everyone. Another opportunity to book a free one-to-one. Again, this is where you can ask any of your questions directly. We'll look at your property universe. We can look at your size of market, how many people there are on LinkedIn that are right for you based on their turnover, size, etc. We can even look at any messaging journeys you've been doing already, whether it's manually or automated. We can give you advice. We can show you some of the good things we know work. Share some results with you, but really just answer any questions you've got. If you're sat there trying to do LinkedIn outreach, and we've been there before when we started 7 or 8 years ago, we had a million questions where we were trying to work it out ourselves, and this is really a really quick way to have a one-to-one to do that. Have we got any questions while we're waiting, if anyone wants to book in?
Yeah, we do. So one person's asked, what actually happens when LinkedIn flags a profile on the premise of suspicious activity?
Most of the time, it's quite rare, but most of the time they will just be asking you to upload your ID to make sure you're a real person. LinkedIn brought in a thing called Persona a couple of years ago now, which basically was the death of the AI profile, the fake person profile, whatever you want to call it. Basically every profile now, if it's not backed by a passport or driving license, it's just a matter of time before it would be shut down. The other caveat of that is duplicates. So you can't have more than one account. They will shut down duplicate accounts as well. Yeah, did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so, because I think we talked about suspicious activity earlier, didn't we? I think we'll probably just explain that, once you verify and show you're human, you suddenly get a lot more bandwidth to do more. And then another question we have is this the same as InMails?
No, it's totally different to InMails. The difference of InMails is they will just go straight into an inbox. You don't have to have the connection request part of the process. The problem with that is it literally comes up saying sponsored message in your inbox. So, you already know who wants to click on an advert. Not to mention who wants to click on an advert that costs £1 an eyeball, which is kind of outrageous. So, I think the ones you get free with a premium account are fine. I think you get 60, 80 or whatever a month. But to scale, and that's obviously where we come in, doing this at scale, messaging and connecting with lots of people, it's much more cost effective to do automation at scale via multiple profiles. So yeah, totally different and much better from a cost per acquisition point of view.
I think just to clarify as well, is you don't need any form of premium subscription for normal messaging. With InMail, you need to be paying that. Was it
yeah, so we'll have lots of
month?
clients that will come to us, maybe on our 3 profile package, and they'll already be spending £300 or $300 a month on Sales Navigator, which they technically don't need with us. So there's lots of things to discuss. We can obviously discuss that in the free review. Are we past a minute now? More questions? Or?
Yeah, I think we've done a minute.
Yeah, okay, great. Now we're going to look at some more tools you can use for LinkedIn outreach. Again, this is trying to give you some value. We've got Sales Navigator, Lix, our own outreach platform and how we do the automation, and then Cognism, the enrichment. We spoke about the common mistakes people make. The 3 ones predominantly is data. They get the data wrong first. We'll remove at least 30% of any data we pull from Sales Navigator. We humanly cleanse that. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They trust Sales Navigator and they go live. So you're already 30% behind the 8 ball in a numbers game. So that's the first thing. And some of these tools will help you do this better. Then obviously we've got lead follow-up. So once you get a positive response on LinkedIn, the consistency of follow-up, i.e. picking up the phone, following up with them on LinkedIn, but also the ability which Cognism allows you to do with enrichment with mobile numbers and email addresses. So we'll get into these 4 softwares now. We won't talk loads about our outreach platform. That's obviously, if you want to do that, we can do that at a later date. But yeah, let's go from that. Sales Navigator, you love it. I always start you on Sales Navigator.
Yeah, I was ready for
it's
Sales Navigator.
Such an exciting thing to talk about for everyone.
Yeah, so I feel like when we talk about introducing this isn't so much an introduction, especially for everyone who's been using LinkedIn for marketing or sales in the past, probably use Sales Navigator. And to touch on what you mentioned earlier, Toby, is this is more about insight about not Sales Navigator itself, but how to use it, essentially. I think for those people who've been doing it manually, you may have noticed this yourselves, where you'll create searches and then maybe the first page or so, it would seem accurate, and then it starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
And that's common. That's for everyone. The amount of people we spoke to experience the same thing. And that's why we, as you mentioned, manually check that data afterwards, because, it's so easy to do a sense check. And then when you're exporting, 2,500 or so, you'd be surprised how many don't quite fit. So I think a big part of what we advise is, yes, we manually cleanse afterwards, but we try and do the best we can at that data sourcing stage. And as you can see on the screen, is that use of inclusion and exclusion of keywords and titles. So for example, if you were to search for a director, page 1 and page 2, you might get your managing directors, operation directors, executive directors. And then after that, you're going to start getting interim directors, retired directors, former directors, non-exec directors, maybe even theatrical directors. So what we usually do is when we add a keyword such as director, we'll also exclude retired, former, interim, junior, every kind of variation of that we can think of that we know is not relevant. So we try and be very thorough with the use of the keywords to save that cleansing time afterwards. Same for industries as well. There's usually a lot of overlap in industries. For example, could be a company that could be in fashion and retail. You might be after one or the other. So it's really the big advice that we would give. I'd say if there's 2, one is to use your positives and negatives in every aspect wherever you can. And as you mentioned, to do that manual check afterwards.
Yeah, and what we'll do now is show you the software Lix that we talk about that we link with Sales Nav. But just before we go on, Sales Nav is not built for LinkedIn outreach at scale. It's not what they exist for. It exists for them to be able to do more emails. It's just them to run ads to more people. So they're obviously playing a volume play from an eyeballs perspective. So it being imperfect is valuable to them because it's much harder to be exact. Like when you're doing LinkedIn outreach for us, we want you to be able to go through the list of every individual and know their turnover, their job title, their sector. You know, every single person on that list, if they respond, is worth your time. And at the minute, Sales Navigator alone doesn't do that. You end up with a load of wishy-washy stuff in there, which is a waste of time, which are then, that can be the difference between it working or not, the 30%. But anyway, I'll come on to the software that we use. So we use Lix. Lix is something you use in conjunction with Sales Navigator. What it does is allow you to pull large lists from Sales Navigator, I think 2,500 at a time, but up to 20,000 a day. So you can pull a huge amount. So I think it costs around £100 a month for a Lix account. You can pull 2,500 a month. And then from there, what we do is we humanly cleanse it. So we'll go through that 2,500 and remove at least 30% of it every single time, don't we?
Yeah, in short, Lix takes the search results out the browser and into a spreadsheet.
Exactly,
so it's a lot easier to edit, take people out, things like that.
And that's the important part of the process. You now are no longer just relying on Sales Nav. You're using Sales Nav as a starting point, and then Lix is helping you really polish that rock to make sure it's everyone's worth your time. Then we've got our platform. Francesco, without talking about it too much, obviously it's not what we're here to do. You mind just giving a bit of a background on our business?
Yeah, well, one of the great things is, and we'll talk about it later, about why you should automate it and why you should do it at scale, is that you need to do it off more than one platform or more than one profile. And getting back to the data, the mistake people make is to just load 20,000 contacts in there and write one message for all of them. What your platform and some other ones that people might be able to find will do is separate that. So if you find 20,000 people that are potentially prospects for you, what you want to do is break that down into 1,000 and less chunks that are very specific. So even with industries, you'll have differences in sizes of business or employees or location. Then write the message that's specific to that group of people. Because then it's not a, hey, do you want some marketing? It's, by the way, we work with pharmaceutical businesses in Belgium or whatever. It's just coming off the top of my head. But you make it more specific and more personal. And then you can use case studies from your blogs or from your LinkedIn posts or from your website that are specific to that. So break it down into chunks. And having a platform like that enables you to have one or two campaigns per profile and then be able to navigate between the profiles that are connected. So you have an overview because you want to coordinate this and break it down into chunks so that you can see the results rather than load everyone into one profile and then let it run for like a year. So it's great because you get an overview of the success and you get the statistics, but you're able to just click between the campaigns, click between the people running it or the profiles that are running it. And then whoever your coordinator is, if you're not a sole trader, if you're part of a team, has an overview. But if you are a sole trader and you're using 2 or 3 profiles for families or friends, and we talk about that later, you're able to control it from one central point rather than having to just figure out and go in. And the other thing about that is when you get a lead, you can click on it and go straight to that conversation within the platform. So you don't have to find it in your inbox, in your LinkedIn.
Great. And we'll come on to some more. We have got some more time to talk about the platform at the end. Try to give you as much value as we can from other stuff, and then we'll touch out at the end. So, Francesco, appreciate that. And then Cognism. We talked about the common mistakes people make. Number one, we spoke about data is the one we see every time that clients come to us and they've tried LinkedIn Outreach. And then probably there's a type. I mean, the data I'd say is number one, and then it's a close 2 and 3 between the messaging journey and the follow-up. Probably the messaging journey is second, but we'll go to follow-up now, which is where Cognism comes in. So once you get the positive response, how you follow up is really important. One, not the timeline you follow up. So sometimes we've had professional service businesses where, we'll give them a lead on LinkedIn, and they say, "Oh, I sent them an email last week, 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard anything back." And it's like, "Well, you didn't even respond on LinkedIn." Like, "Oh no, we just sent them an email." So that's obviously one thing, but we give a full guide on how people should follow up day 1, day 2, etc. A combination of calling, email, LinkedIn. But the point I'm trying to get to with Cognism, very long-windedly, sorry about that, is that this is an enrichment tool that gives you the ability, I think it's 70% of the time you get a mobile number, and the majority of the time you get an email address. So the ability, once you get that positive response on LinkedIn, just to pick up the phone and ring said person is super powerful because you don't want to wait. They might not come on LinkedIn again for 2 weeks. So, this is great, really interested in your service, and then they go off LinkedIn and just don't come on in without Cognism. You don't have any capacity to follow them up. You're just playing a waiting game, which obviously is a massive thing people get wrong when it comes to LinkedIn follow-up, because they do LinkedIn outreach, they get their little outreach tool, they're doing a bit of automation or they're doing a bit manual, and then they don't follow up when they get positive leads because they don't understand there's multiple ways to follow up, and you also have to be consistent with that follow-up. You can't just do it once, basically. Cognism costs about £600 a month for one user,
I think
roughly.
last we checked.
Yeah, and that they say it's unlimited usage, but actually comes with like 10,000 max, I believe, fair usage reach. We obviously have lots and lots of accounts, so it's all included in the price for any clients. And there are other versions out there, but this is the premium one. This is the best one we use, and we do a review every year. Obviously, we make our money on long-term relationships. We work with clients for as little as £450, $600 a month. So recurring revenue is really important to us, and getting the data right and the ability to follow up for our clients is super important. Hence why we have Cognism and why we recommend it to anyone. Another opportunity to book a review. We will. We got any questions before we get into that?
Yeah. Let's have a look. Did see some pop up. Oh, so one person asked, I think it's a follow-up to what suspicious activity is. Why does LinkedIn put a limit on the outreach you can do?
I didn't used to. It didn't used to. Unfortunately, I remember 10 years ago where we used to, even myself personally, you would sit on LinkedIn, connect to message people all day or all through the night. And then eventually we had an international team that manually did it for us from like 2 profiles doing, hundreds and thousands a day. But the problem with that is obviously it becomes saturated, and LinkedIn need to manage how much contact people are getting. So what they do is by limit people's profiles. So you can only connect and message so many people at a time. And it's great that they do that. If they didn't do that, then it would be a saturated market and no one would look in their inbox. Don't get me wrong, everyone gets lots of messages, but it takes 2 seconds to look through them. And everyone has the human natural feeling of wanting to look and see if it's something for me, i.e. is someone trying to buy something or consume something. And if you can get their attention in that first line or two, then they're going to read more, and then obviously, you're benefiting them. So it's just feeding into that human behavior of people's interest on LinkedIn, whether it's something for them. And that's really our main mantra as a company, is to flip you into a seller on LinkedIn rather than a buyer. If you or your sales team are in your inbox, on your news feed, etc., you're paying for a lot of your time, your whole team's time, to be doing that, when our goal is that you only touch LinkedIn when we email you. We'll email you and say, look, there's a positive response from John Smith. He wants you to jump on and carry on the conversation. And we do everything until that point. So that's the key thing, really.
I got another good question here, and I think it's a good one to ask out loud for everyone, because it probably does need clarification. Is how are you defining a lead?
So for us, we are not a pay-per-lead company. So for us, as a lead is a buying signal. It's someone who responds with a question to our outreach, because that, by definition, is a lead, because someone's interested in what you've got to say, because they are asking a question, i.e. a buying signal. Now, we're not precious about it, because we'll have some clients say that's not a lead for us and we won't give it to them, and we'll have some clients that say we'll take that because we still want to ring it. So we're bespoke to every one of our clients. And if you're doing LinkedIn outreach yourself, a lead can be whatever you want it to be. It can be someone giving you a thumbs up if you want. Our idea of a lead is a buying signal, so a question in response to outreach.
I think to sort of answer a slightly different question is LinkedIn outreach as a whole can be used for a lot of things in terms of leads. So, for example, I've spoken with people who would use it for invites for events. They'll use it just for growing their connection base or brand exposure. So as much as we're talking about leads in this context, there's a lot of different purposes that LinkedIn outreach can be achieved for, and there's lots of different forms of what that might look like. Like I said, we've been talking about meetings and calls a lot, but there's lots of other
events.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of other objectives which you do for outreach.
Great.
Can I just say on that, that when people are going to do this themselves, getting back to what we were talking about earlier about the messaging journey, decide what you want the lead to be. So do you want an appointment? Do you want someone to fill in a form? Do you want someone to come to an exhibition, a product launch, whatever it is? Then write the journey backwards from that. The mistake people make is to just write a message that says, here's the 10 things that I do, and then expect someone to come back and say, oh, I really need one of those. So what you need to decide is what you want, and then write the messaging to fit what you want, rather than just tell people what you do, and then you'll get better results. And then that's how you define a lead.
Cool. Agree totally. We've got some numbers here just to emphasize the power of outreach. These are some actual wordings that the LinkedIn use internally. They call a casual user, an active user, and a power user. This is all manual outreach. So they'll do, a casual user will do 1 to 5 requests a month, an active user 10 to 20, and a power user 50 to 100. As you can see, it generates a very low amount of replies and leads for obvious reasons because the numbers are so low. We always use the analogy of time every day gets put in a bank and you can spend it or not spend it in the 24 hours. If you don't spend that time in the 24 hours, it's gone. And we use that same example or analogy for LinkedIn outreach because it's the same principle. Every profile can connect and message so many people per week within reason, going up and down depending on how LinkedIn feel that week. And the ability to do that consistently is where the power of LinkedIn automation comes in because it's done all day, every day inside LinkedIn's parameters, but you don't have to remember to do it or make time to do it. All you've got to do is look forward to an email coming through saying, oh, I've got a positive response here from John. Do you want to follow it up? And just to emphasize that, one profile, I think if you can remember the other, was like 1 to 5 connection requests. One profile here is doing 600 to 800 requests. If you turn it up to 5 profiles, 3,000 to 4,000 connection requests. And then we have clients over 100 profiles generating 60 to 80,000 requests. And as you can see, the amount of leads that gets generated off the back of that are quite ginormous. And that's really why we become a really sustainable marketing channel for a lot of businesses. Our price point's really sustainable and it constantly gives them a drip feed of leads through the weeks, through the months. And I think all good businesses are built on multiple marketing pillars inside their business. So if you're a business that's been built around referrals, that's fantastic. You're obviously great at what you do. Well, this can obviously supercharge as another pillar alongside maybe Google Ads or email outreach, whatever it is you may do. So yeah, this just really punches home the numbers. And obviously just some examples of revenue from clients and around the amount spent. So like example 1, 56,000 connection requests we sent across a lot of profiles. They spent $2.5 with us, generating around 100K, which is one of our best examples. And then a smaller business across 3 profiles, doing 2,348 requests, generating 45 leads a month, with a little $650 a month. I think it's actually $450 now, creating around £12,000 annual revenue. So the numbers work for small businesses and one-man bands, all the way up to big businesses that we work with. Go ahead, mate.
Well, we're talking about why people should automate it. The other thing about that, when you look at the numbers about what you can do personally and what you can do if you automate it, the other, I don't want to say mistake, but the stumbling block that people come across is they say, well, I tried it and I emailed a bunch of people, or I messaged a bunch of people, I connected with them, and then I sent them a message and I didn't get much back. When you look on the platform, over 55% of the leads come after the second message. So the thing is, if you're trying to do it yourself on your phone or on your screen, and you're manually connecting to 50 people, and then you're manually having to remember when that person connects to then send them a message, what most people don't do is then remember to message the person the second and the third time, 3 or 4 days apart.
So true, yeah.
So they don't get the lead. Because no one, well, not no one, but very rarely does somebody say, wow, fantastic. That's exactly what I was looking for at this particular point in time. So maybe 2% of the people that you're reaching out to, the results come from consistently messaging them, not to the point of being creepy, but 2 or 3 messages spread a week or so apart is then when you get the lead. And you really just cannot do that unless you're some sort of savant and you can manage the weird LinkedIn messaging portal, which is terrible, and just scroll down and find all of those people and then get back to the message. You're not going to remember to go back and do it. And that's where your platform and automation comes in, because it just does it for you and then stops when someone replies. So you're missing out on that huge potential of leads by not continuing the messaging journey to 3 or 4 messages.
Totally, couldn't agree more. And like you say, it's near impossible to do that manually. It's just it'd be a nightmare. Yeah, another opportunity to book a free review. If we can get that option up on the screen for you to be able to book the free review, that would be great. Just as a reminder on the free review, we're going to answer any questions you've got directly in a one-to-one. We're going to look at your profile universe. We can look at your size of market. We can share messaging journeys that we know work and we've used plenty of times. We can look at your existing messaging journey. We can look at how you're doing data, who you're targeting. Just really feel free to use us as a free sounding board, really, for LinkedIn outreach. Again, no need to buy from us. You don't need to have a demo or anything like that. Obviously, if you want one of those, we will give you one. That's fine. We can book another date for that. But it's really about sharing our experience, accelerating people's knowledge and ability to do this well from the start, rather than do it incorrectly and fail. And then we hope in time, when they look to scale it, because it's all very scalable, if you've got the size of market, then they'll come to us. So yeah, feel free to book that one-to-one if you want to look at any of that stuff. And it does go through it here again, which I won't probably, but content advice I think is probably a big thing. And obviously looking at your existing profiles as well. And obviously we've talked about target audience creation as well. But we got any questions left before we move on?
Yeah. So Tyler asked, does this apply to all industries, particularly challenging in the oil and gas industry?
Does it apply to all industries? Yeah, I mean, we always say that the biggest problem we have is it's rather easy to tell you the industries it doesn't work in. Like in the UK, as an example, medical and teachers are an absolute nightmare to get in contact. That's very different in the US, as an example. Especially in the medical, we get really good lead flow in the pharmaceutical space, etc. in the US. But they're the really spaces where it doesn't work. You think of any examples of target markets?
Well, I think you've probably just identified a rough correlation between private and public sector there.
Yeah.
But I'd say a good idea of how it doesn't work is more about how active you'd expect the audience to be on LinkedIn. So, for example, you mentioned a few public sectors like education, things like that, who are probably less likely to be active on LinkedIn because they're not having that kind of...
Yeah. Another good example is like construction, one-man band construction companies.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to be on LinkedIn. They're going to, have their hand on a brick, basically. But you start going for bigger construction companies, then yeah, you're going to get the MD on LinkedIn because he's managed to grow a decent, and he's done that by being on LinkedIn and building relationships, etc. Which is another good example of how it can work. Feel free to book a one-to-one, and we can really delve into what he's saying. But the oil and gas industry is quite a broad industry.
Yeah, but I'd say that is a deciding factor. Like I feel like messages can be written for anyone. The follow-up can be done for anyone. It's just about having that audience there ready to receive it. What was the
gentleman's name again?
Tyler,
one thing I would say as well is if you are a niche offering, and obviously I don't know what you do, so again, feel free to book a one-to-one. But if you're a niche offering to a niche market, it's one of the things we dream of. Even if you're not, we try to create that in the messaging journey. So I'll give you an example. If you're an accountancy software and we're targeting businesses to sell the software, we're trying to make it look like that software is meant for that sector. But if you are actually in a space which is niche to what we call niche to niche, i.e. you deliver a service to the oil and gas space, then it works really well because what we're messaging them is super relevant to them. It's not just an anybody product. It's a product or a service, I should say, for that space, which can make it really powerful, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Great, cool.
One more?
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so Adrian's asked, I've tried automated AI and ran it. It started to get away from me saying some strange things. I got the impression it was AI talking to AI. What do you think? He's in medical devices.
Well, great. I mean, it's so funny because there's so many products out there that are now, they're basically, for years you've had LinkedIn automation softwares, that's really normal. Now what they've done, and I understand why they've done it because it's sort of like our webinars. It's going and helping that one-man band get started. Some of the things we've spoke about, they've tried to integrate into the tools, whether it be content creation or communication back and forth or super personalization. One thing I would say is on that is that it's really important that for our clients' perspective, they're a professional business. They couldn't have AI representing them as a person. That'd be their worst nightmare. The AI might be better than they are, more knowledgeable about them. But at the end of the day, if I'm talking to someone on LinkedIn, I want to be talking to them. The other thing that's a big problem for LinkedIn is they're petrified of this. So they are really heavily cracking down on people attaching AI bots to their profiles because their platform is literally over the day that we go onto LinkedIn and you're just two bots chatting to two bots because there'll be no reason to go on the platform anymore. Like from our point of view, if someone responds to automation, that's then passed off to a human at that point. A pre-written message, that could appear to be written at anyone is really powerful. But if you start letting an AI speak as you on LinkedIn, without even announcing it. Yeah, it's just a big problem for LinkedIn as a company, but also I think for most people's profiles. So I'm not surprised that they're having problems doing that. We totally get why you'd have problems doing that, because there's so much nuanced detail in messaging, in data, that we've learned from 10 years experience of doing it, that, you know, it's just it's really difficult just to trust that to go and do it right, especially if you're a niche business. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think funnily enough, despite the fact that the topic of this webinar being about AI and automation, there's one aspect of this we don't let it touch, and it's the final sending of the message. It might help with the outlines, it might help to compile data or pictures, but when it comes to the actual wording of the message, that's the one thing the AI doesn't touch. And as you mentioned, that pre-written message, there's no artificial thinking involved. That pre-written message goes out to everyone. But when you have it pre-written going out for everyone, you know it, because of course, I don't know if it's the case for you, Adrian, but when it's coming out for your own profile, it is representing you. So you want to know exactly what's going out and who to. So when it's a pre-written message, it's going. There can be a bit of personalization, obviously, like the first thing you're changing it, maybe if you introduce industries and things. But you want to know exactly what's going out because it's representing you. And like I said, that's the one thing we don't let that variable come into play, really. Sorry, Francesco, I think I cut across you.
No, it's fine. It's the delay. Sorry. I think I've had experience of that in a different aspect of AI. I think we could do a whole seminar just on AI. I think that's the important thing. What we're saying is automate it. Use AI as a tool, as a lifting point to a certain level, and then take it from there yourself. Problem is with human nature is we watch an Instagram ad or we watch something on social media or LinkedIn even that says, hey, just do this and all your problems will be solved for $9.99 a day, or however much they're charging and extra tokens and all that junk. And someone really clever has built this. So it's not taking away from that product that guy's used. The problem is that AI is only as good as the guardrails, and you almost have to learn another language and another way of working. And if you let it run rampant, it will do weird stuff. It will fabricate things. It hallucinates. Literally, Google AI hallucination, and you'll just get a whole page of examples of where it's done and how it can do that. So the important thing is not to trying to badmouth anyone else's product, but the ones that promise to do it all for you by AI, if it's too good to be true, it is. And there is no AI that can actually interact with another human being with enough guardrails and enough intelligence to know when to shut up.
I think, Francesco,
that's what it does.
It's one of the best things that's happened to our company is all these AI do-it-yourself things come out in the last year, because what it's doing is it's bridging the gap really easy for people, because they'll go and spend £100 or whatever. They do it on one profile. They think, oh, this is great, but actually this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. Who can I speak to? Oh, you can speak to an AI agent. It's like, great, I've just built with an AI agent, and I'm none the wiser. I can't get there. I can't get where I need to get. Also, now I'm pretty much doing it myself. Like, from our point of view, we have a minimum of like 3 profiles entry point, but our price point is probably about £100 or $150 more a month than those people, but we actually do it. There's an account manager on the end of the line. You've got access to Cognizant with enrichment of the mobile numbers. You build data lists. We humanly cleanse them. We send them to you. You can have a call every week with human beings. You've got a human copywriter. You know, all this stuff. It just makes it ever easy for people. Everyone's so busy, right? And what we've really mastered is being able to deliver a high quality service at a low cost, which is sustainable for clients. And that's really what we've tried to do. And I tell you what, it's better than AI because it comes from human experience and it doesn't create an average. Again, AI is great. We spoke about AI tools that we recommend you use if you're going to do it yourself. But there's certain things that it just doesn't work from. You just end up spending more time than you would have before. Just fly through some of our brief, the powers of our LinkedIn outreach software. Just quickly, you can see on this slide, this just shows the power of how easy it is to move between profiles. Like I said, some of our clients have 3, 5, 10 profiles with us. Some clients have 100. And here they can literally one click between their inboxes, which is really powerful. So one sales director, one marketing director, one MD, whatever it may be, they can literally look through all the profiles, look at all the campaigns and how they're performing, how people are handling their leads. It's also important to point out at this point, it doesn't sync private messages. So if you've got a sales team, it's only going to sync the messages that come from our outreach. They can still have private messages elsewhere where they still have their privacy, basically. Messaging journey. How do you want to talk about messaging journey briefly?
Yeah, I know we've talked a little bit about the some things to do and not to in terms of the content. But if we talk about a little bit about the workflow, so essentially the way it works is you'd upload some data and you'd have a queued up contact list effectively. And the idea is what the platform will do will automatically start sending out connection requests to everyone. When they accept that request, give a bit of time. I think the worst thing you can do is send a message immediately upon a request being accepted. I think that sort of gives the game away, so to speak.
Totally.
So give some space, send the follow-up message. Again, wait a few days, follow-up message after that. Broadly speaking, we'd recommend probably 3 messages after a connection request, and have that time in between.
But we have got clients that have done 6 or more aggressive or do less.
Yeah, again, it depends on the objective. When it's about there's an element of, I think it's what they call risk appetite with this, but also when you're trying to build a brand, yes, you may want to stretch that out and longer gaps in the latter messages. But I think a big part of it is, you talked, I think Francesco talks about guardrails and things like that. The idea is those messages will automatically go out, but as soon as someone replies to that message in any form, it automatically stops. Because the worst thing that could happen is someone engaging with you, and then you go on to receive a message and they feel ignored. So that's
just the same as like an AI mess up, but an automated mess up.
Yeah.
Basically.
So the workflow is send connection request. If accepted, send a follow-up message. If no reply, send another, etc., etc.
And then just gives you an example of how we can manage inboxes. You can see here down the inbox on the left, we've got people labeled as interested, not their role, interested, not right now, all this stuff, which we can API into CRM systems. If it's interested, we can API it straight into any CRM system in the world, and then the relevant salesperson could carry on. There'll be a one-click link which they can link and go back to the message, etc., as well as add all the enrichment. And then this is one of the things we talked about as a business. One of our key mantras is converting you into a seller on LinkedIn rather than a buyer, which the most of us are on LinkedIn. We're scrolling through the newsfeed, through the inbox. So every time you get a positive response via any of the profiles, we'll email the relevant person inside your business. One of our team will literally send you an email to say, look, this person's replied saying this, with an interest asking how much it is or why should I use you. At that point, yourself, your sales team, marketing, whoever it may be, can jump onto the platform and respond via any of the profiles and follow up that lead. And I think this is a key part of what we do, because time is really valuable for people these days. And, spending time on LinkedIn is just, you are a consumer. That's the key thing to it. If you're spending time right now, you're on LinkedIn, you're watching our webinar, you're a consumer. You're a consumer because we made you one. So what we do is help you do that in reverse for other people, basically. Right, last chance to book a free LinkedIn review. And we've got 10 minutes left, so any questions if there's anything left. We get the free review booking opportunity up on the screen if possible. And yeah, did we get any more questions? Or
Yeah, so we've got one question here is, how does this work if you wanted to target different countries?
Super easy. I mean, one of the best things that happened to us really is it's just a tick box. It's like 3-4 years ago, we were like, why do we just do the UK? And now actually we have more clients in the US than we do in the UK. I think our price point really resonates over there. I also think, Americans love, the land of opportunity, going out and reaching out to people is a big thing. So in short, the answer to your question is it's just a tick box. You're building job titles, amount of staff, sector, etc. The other tick box is just the country they're in, basically.
Yeah, I think one thing Francesco mentioned earlier was about segmenting big batches of data. And you can do the same thing here. You can take your data, have multiple data sets, split it all up by country. And for each country, they can each have their own form of messaging in their own language, literally or figuratively. And then one thing we've not really spoke about yet is apply a time frame for that, or a time window. So the idea is that if you are sending messages in LA, for example, you can get them on the Pacific time zone and, GMT, things like that. So you can accommodate every country and run them side by side and even compare performance if, you're reaching out to new markets and you're not sure where it resonates.
Yeah, I love that we can do that. Like, we've got clients that we've taken into Europe as well. And it's just a really cool feeling to go and create new markets for clients. And this day and age, people can work with people all over the world. And there's lots of unique opportunities selling something from one country to another because they don't have it as much, or they don't have as much experience, or their price points aren't as good, or whatever. So you can be amazed what you can find going into new countries from opportunity perspective.
Another question. Can I still use my LinkedIn profile if I was running automated outreach at the same time?
Yeah, we always just say use it sparingly. Obviously, there's only so much you can do per day. If you're doing it yourself, then you're sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Obviously, if you go to an event and you want to connect with a load of people, you can either drop us a message, or if it's just 5 people here or there, it's fine as well. So you can use it like a normal user. It's not going to affect anything. But if you do want to start connecting messaging lots of people manually, then obviously, you are robbing Peter to pay Paul there. So it's just about the balance of it. In short, you can use it normally. You just can't do it at volume.
You can still scroll through and comment and things like that. That's fine. Like you said, it's just about being mindful.
Yeah, and you can still meet someone at an event and still connect with them. You might meet 5 people at an event, you can still connect with them, right? It's just, if you do that consistently all the time, then you're just going to take away the allowance that LinkedIn allow.
Yeah. Got another one. Can this integrate with HubSpot?
Yeah, all CRM systems.
Yeah.
We've pretty much done everything, haven't we?
Yeah, I think our usual workflow for that would be, you mentioned earlier, Toby, that emails get sent out if there's a positive response. So what a lot we could do with any of these platforms is, as soon as you get that positive response or it's been labeled a certain way, it could then create or update a contact in your CRM, create an updated company, create activities, create deals, whatever you want, really. I think there's a lot of flexibility with that, especially because everyone uses CRMs in their own ways, don't they?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they can be sort of built from scratch to accommodate, really, which is what we've always done in the past with people.
Cool. Are we done? We got any more questions?
Yes, we've got 2 more.
2 more. Okay.
So one easier than the other. So the first one is, which accounts do you recommend using for this? Should I be asking the directors at the top? Should I be asking my sales team? Who should I be using? Whose profile should I ask?
Well, in short, we would use all of them, to be honest with you, because it creates more volume. Now, don't get me wrong, a director might get a 2 or 3 or 5% better acceptance rate, but then sometimes a young marketer who, forgive me for saying this, but true, happens to be attractive, may get more acceptance than someone else who's a director. So there's a lot of variables. Also, every market is different, every target market is different. But the point is, the more profiles you have, the more capacity you have to do more outreach. And when those numbers blow up, the acceptance rate might wave 5% in either direction, depending on who you've got it. But it far outweighs having more volume. If it's, let's just say you could just do one profile, then obviously director's probably the best, then sales, then marketing, etc. But we don't see a huge difference in results depending on the profile.
I think the other thing to
But
add.
also
Sorry,
on
go on,
that-
Francesco.
Go ahead, Francesco.
Yeah, also on that, you could have a director who hasn't posted any content or had any activity on his LinkedIn profile for ages. And then you could have Bob with straight hair and curly teeth and the worst profile picture ever. But if they're active on LinkedIn and the banner is behind their profile picture and it shows clearly what they do, and in their bio, there's something that's interesting to the people they're reaching out to, they're actually going to get a better acceptance rate. So it isn't all about image. It's all about, when you look at a profile, are there any of those little red flags that go off? Person looks normal, profile's there, but also there's been activity in the last 3 months. When you see a profile and they've done nothing, not even commented on anything or reposted anything or even a thumbs up, normally people don't connect. So whatever profiles you're going to use, just get them for the few weeks or months before you start, just to do stuff, even repost your own things or just comment so that there's something in their feed. So essentially they look like they're alive.
Yeah, active. Yeah, definitely. And we can throw in liking comments and stuff like that into automation.
Yeah, I think sort of to take a step back from that, as we've been talking, I know we were answering a specific question around teams, but one thing we've not talked too much about is if, of course, you don't have a team at your disposal and what you can do there.
Yeah, I mean, we can also rent you profiles. They have to be real people backed by passports, but we have clients that have 20, 30 of those, even more in some cases. So, if you're a one-man band and you think, oh, how am I going to get 3 profiles? Well, we can rent you to facilitate that scale. And that's really what it comes down to, like more profiles, more outreach, to be honest. But we have lots of clients that sit in the silver package, which is our free profile package, and they're absolutely delighted with that. They get a consistent flow of leads at a really low cost. And, their business is growing for the better. So it's each to their own. But again, the other end of that spectrum, we have clients that have 100 plus profiles and they're getting, 20, 30 leads a day. So, each to their own.
Funny enough, we've actually had an influx of questions now, so I'll try and do as many as we can time limit. So Victoria says, so she's in education.
Yeah.
This is probably a question for me, actually. My
Yeah.
content is around building and nurturing relationships to eventually build sales, not just generating leads immediately to close them.
Yeah.
So how does your product address this? And I guess my answer to that would be you'd use it in the same way. The real difference we're talking about there is in the content. And funny enough, a lot of the lead generation is similar. It's about building relationships. So a lot of the
Giving
things we
value.
write, exactly that. When we write content, we're not, I mean, we used to do this and we used to see success, but obviously things change. The call to actions aren't about, oh, when's the best time to speak? Here's my Calendly link, let's talk. I could do this for you, I could do that. A lot of it is, oh, let's just have a quick conversation. Let's
Or look at this thing we did for da-da-da.
yeah, or give you some advice. So really, call it the wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will, but a lot of the sales is relationship building anyway, I would say, based on what we do predominantly. So to answer your question, Victoria, I'd say a lot of it's about the content, and it's not about having these sort of borderline aggressive sort of CTAs. It's just keeping it really conversational, and we'd almost recommend that in almost any campaign objective really is it's kind of like getting that foot in the door and then take it where you want to take it. And that's what a lot of the leads really are, is a lot of people just showing that interest, and then you suggest a call or just keep in the back pocket and just inviting to see content. So yeah, I'd say that's all down to the content, but it's definitely something that we've done ourselves in the past for campaigns.
Could people still book in just while we do these last questions?
Yeah, they can still see them. They can still see the link, sorry.
Cool.
And I guess one more to squeeze in is an interesting one. Is if lead generation via LinkedIn is this effective, why are you running webinars?
I love this one. Yeah, we run webinars. One thing we always say, and Harry spoke about it, is like our goal is to get a positive response on LinkedIn. That's really what we do as a business. But at the same time, all of our clients are building connection based to the exact right people, because we've already profiled them from a job title and a date of sage. So you can, once you're connected with them, you can nurture them with content, etc. Now, what you can also do, in additional value to that, is once you're first connection with someone, you can invite them to an event. So you have accepted a connection request of one of our profiles, which has empowered us to invite you to this event today. So it's really the same thing. It's just a byproduct of what we do already. So it's not like we're doing, some crazy left step. Now, at the same time, we recommend multiple channels. Like I mentioned earlier, every big business and good business is built on multiple marketing pillars, because marketing changes really quickly at times, and that's why people tend to outsource it. Email, for example, fell off a cliff a couple of years ago, really bad. And then even I remember back along 10 years ago when it fell off on a cliff for us. And it's not just us; they changed something technology-wise, and the world changes. So, end of the day, you should be looking to have multiple marketing pillars, and LinkedIn automation is a very cost-effective one. So that's why we do it. And the events is just a byproduct of that, because we have so many connections across our profile base. Have you answered the question there?
I think that's answered. Yeah,
sure.
I think that's answered.
We done on time?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have enough time. I think we've still had some questions come in, so I think just as you've said, it's just to book in, and obviously we just have to answer them there and then. But
yeah,
obviously appreciate all the questions coming in.
Yeah, thanks for the questions, guys. Sorry I haven't been able to answer all of them. Again, that's what the one-to-ones are. Hopefully the questions we have answered have been answered them for you. Again, if there are new nuances, feel free to book in, and we can have a more direct conversation. Thanks to you two for coming on. Appreciate your time. You got anything you want to say before you leave? Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I should have some clever lined up here, shouldn't I?
Yeah, we've done enough of these.
I would say technology should increase customer time, not screen time. So use automation to take away the menial task of just messaging dozens of people every day, so that, especially if you're a small team or a large team, your time is efficient closing deals and talking to customers meaningfully, rather than just consuming stuff on LinkedIn and sending messages manually.
Amen, Francesco. I think that's a perfect thing just to leave on. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Hopefully it's been helpful, and hopefully we'll see some of you in a free LinkedIn outreach review.